What's up? Welcome back to the Two Goat Show. We're your hosts, Miriah and Steph. Steph, it's been more than a week now since I talked to you. A lot's happened.
Yeah, sure.
We had Thanksgiving. We had an emotional Thanksgiving game. We got to watch our guys eat turkey in Seattle. I know it's been a week since we played, but I haven't got to get your feelings on it. So let me know. Let's start off with it. Start off the show with a bang. How good did it feel to go in there and just dominate Seattle on Thanksgiving?
Oh, it felt great. And I was just telling Rob earlier this morning on my show that, I kind of feel like we didn't really get a chance to like really relish in that win because it meant so much. Like going back to, I think it was 2014 that, the Seahawks ate the turkey on the 49ers field. Like that's so many years of pain and just like, collective trauma in the fan base. And, it's on to the next game, of course, against Seattle now. And that one we've had circled on our calendars, but I'm not done enjoying how great and how satisfying of a win that was. It meant a lot for sure.
Yeah. What do you think? How do you think about what the defense is doing since, not even just this game, like since the bye? I think they've looked great. And then we saw in this game that Travis Ward didn't just stay on one side of the field. He shadowed DK Metcalf. And we know that they always are pretty chippy, when we play each other. But for the most part, Travis Ward shuts him down, And I think it's so funny watching him play because Travis Ward like literally looks like half the size of DK Metcalf out there running behind him. And yet some way, somehow he manages to shut him down. I was listening to Wilkes talk earlier, and he said that that's been something like a month ago that Travis Ward went to him and talked to him about, if he could start shadowing the number one wide receivers instead of just playing on one side of the field. He said they thought about doing it against Tampa Bay, but that it's a discussion, I guess, between like Kyle, John, Wilkes, Travis, and they just decided against it. But they felt since Wilkes said, I watched the tape and saw Travis dominate DK in the past, so we thought it would be a good time to have him follow him around. So kind of what have you seen, from Wilkes coming out of the bye and from this defense, just what they've been able to do coming out of the bye?
I mean, I think the cornerback play since the bye week has drastically improved. And part of that has been like, moving off of Isaiah Oliver at the nickel spot, right? You have Diamador Lenore there, who, I do think it took him some weeks to get adjusted and acclimated to that too. I mean, he's a great athlete and a great corner. And obviously the 49ers like him at that spot, to have the confidence in him to put him there. But, I think the first few weeks, there was a learning curve there that I think he's now adjusted to at this point. So like these last two games, I think you've seen a different type of Diamador Lenore. We've also seen a different Ambry Thomas. Who is this guy? Who is this guy? This is close to the Ambry Thomas I think we saw in his rookie season when he had to finish the season. And I would say he's performing even better than that. And that's what the 49ers needed, right, out of their corners to transform their defense, basically. And along with, like, how the defensive line has stepped up. I mean, we've been saying it, like, they're supposed to complement each other, right? And I think they do. So, yeah, Mooney Ward being able to cover guys like he is, being able to shadow someone who's not just vertically bigger than him, but also horizontally, right? Like, DK definitely has the muscle advantage over him. He's
like, that
huge.
guy is huge.
He's a monster. Yeah, he's a monster. But there's more to playing the position than being big. Like obviously a lot of receivers are big and they're fast, and to be a great corner is tough, right? Because you have to deal with all of that and their athleticism. But I think Mooney Ward has shown that he's up to the challenge. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they continue having him shadow guys, right? Like, I don't know if they'll do it against AJ Brown. Like, I feel like AJ Brown's a different kind of beast. I think he's higher up than Metcalf, but still it's very encouraging to see all of the corners step up these last few games.
Yeah, I love watching when, especially this week and, against DK, Charvarius, you could just see his confidence grow throughout the game, right? Like he lines up on that first play and it's like, okay, we know what kind of game it's going to be, but every single play that he makes, like you just see his confidence grow and grow and grow. And like, he just starts shit talking and, like it feels like everybody, yeah, the double. It's like turning around
double
in a
strap.
circle while doing it, Like I love to see that. And I know I was critical on Travarius like at the beginning of the season because I just felt like we weren't getting, like he wasn't playing up to his potential. And I don't know if that was because it's a new scheme, he's being asked something different by Wilks. Who knows what Wilks wanting from him, but I just felt like he gets paid and we talk about him like he's this number one, cornerback, and that he wasn't playing like that. And coming out of the bye, though, I think he's been great. And if he's going to Steve Wilks and saying, I want to cover this guy, I want to cover that guy, he has that confidence. And that's exactly what I want to see from our number one cornerback. Wilks had talked about Lenore at the presser today and said that Lenore spends so much extra time with Daniel Bullock, like going over plays, extra meetings. And he says that they wanted him to improve in the run game while playing in the slot. And that he's, put in the time, and Wilks is like, he wants to get better. He's here working harder, not harder than anybody, but, like he's putting in all that time to improve in the areas that, they're saying he was weak at so that he could, take over that position. And, like hats off to him because, to go to being the starting outside corner to start the season. And then all of a sudden I'm sure they came to him and were like, well, obviously you see this guy sucks, so we're going to have to move you in here, and then you're having to switch to a completely different position. He's having to play the run. Like Wilks said, like he's having to play a linebacker out there while he's in the slot, and that he's now rose to that challenge. So I think the defense has looked great. I think how about Wilks being on the sideline, winning a game? He's won every game since being on the sideline.
Correlation is not causation. Miriah. No, I mean, look, it has helped, I think, with the relationship that these players have with Wilks. I think it's nice to have a face on the sideline and a voice on the sideline you can go to. But aside from that, I mean, I think that's not the only reason. But I know you will rub it in my face any chance you get. So that's fair.
All right. Let's get into this Eagles game because we know that this game, the media is not letting us even try to forget about last season. They're not letting the players forget about it. They're grilling them about, oh, well, do you have extra feelings? Do you get this way? Do you feel this way? Axton Brock, like, oh, is this game going to be different because this is the game that you got hurt? And like bringing up all this shit, and the players are just like, we just want to move on. Like, this is a new season, and we've seen some shit talking between AJ Brown and Debo back and forth, but we know also that they're homies, right? So, kind of just, going into this game, like how are you feeling? Where are your emotions at? Because I know for me, like, of course, not even just all those reasons that keep getting brought up, but that game stings. It stings that we had to listen to the Eagles talk shit for a whole year now about how they beat us, and knowing that, well, nobody's going to take the excuse that we didn't have a quarterback, and it's like such a shitty way to lose. Like, I would have rather just gone in there and got our asses kicked and lost that way. Like I would have dealt with it better, just knowing that our guys couldn't even fight. Like they couldn't even play. Like they didn't even stand a chance, So like, I want nothing more. Obviously Seattle, like that was a big check off the list to finally win that Thanksgiving game. But now this is the next one. Like I want nothing more than the 49ers to go in there and just beat the crap out of them. Like, I don't even want it to be close. Like make them pay for everything this last freaking year, like for everything the fans put Fred Warner's wife through all this shit, right? Like go in there and make them pay, especially that this game's on my birthday, and I'm not trying to have a shitty birthday because the 49ers go in there and lose to this team out of all freaking teams.
Yeah,
So how
no,
you feeling?
I mean, I'm with you. I think part of the reason that the players do keep getting asked about this game and how they feel about the NFC Championship game and how it ended was because the way it ended, right? It wasn't just any ordinary game or any like it was a very unique circumstance. Let's just put it that way. And like you said, it stings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's only natural, along with some of the talking that happened after that game, it's only natural to wonder, like, are you still feeling that way? Like, let us know where your head's at. And so I think the questions to the players are warranted. I think the way that they've all, answered has been, really good. Like they're pretty much all saying, like you said, like it's this year, and we're not thinking about that game anymore, kind of thing. Easier said than done. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't actually know. But I think the 49ers are going to be motivated for a number of reasons, and I think a lot of it's going to come from the way that game ended, because I think they felt like they could have and would have won that game in the NFC Championship had Brock Purdy not gone down. Okay, now's your chance to prove it. Now's the redemption. This like 2-game stretch was a little redemption tour, right? Like, I had both games circled on my calendar. When we were looking at the schedule and all that, because in my head I was like, this could heal a lot of wounds for us. Going back to Thanksgiving, which a lot of the current players probably knew nothing about or wouldn't have cared about, right?
Exactly.
But for us, it meant a lot. And in this game, that a lot of the current players, probably still fresh in their minds. So, I think to get this win would be huge, not just for right now and the implications that come with this game. We talk about the 1 seed, we talk about the glory of potentially being deemed as that best team in the NFC, and all those things. So I think for that reason it's going to be high stakes, and also it's a way for the 49ers to prove if they needed to go to Philadelphia again, because as of right now it kind of looks like that's a real possibility, right? If they need to do it again, they could.
Yeah, I thought going into this game to have the Eagles be 10-1, and you can say, I've my family's Eagles fan, so I watch a lot of Eagles football. Some of those games they didn't deserve to win. However, they came out and got the W, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters, right? But to have us going to their home against a 10-1 team and have the 49ers favored,
Yeah, that's weird.
That was crazy.
Like even Kyle said that was weird. He doesn't make sense
like,
to him.
I don't know, Vegas has more confidence in the 49ers than I don't know how that's supposed to shake out there. But speaking of confidence, like looking at how I felt about this matchup last season, obviously with a healthy team, going into the game, like I was worried, I wasn't one of the people going into that game and thought, oh, I'm 100% sure, guaranteeing that the 49ers are going to win this game. Like, even with the healthy Brock, whatever, like Philly was a badass team last season. But looking at them this season, like I'm not half as worried about the team this season as I was last year. Where's your confidence at in this 49ers team when it shakes up, against, like we've seen obviously Purdy now, he got labeled the dink and dunk quarterback. He couldn't, pass, everybody wanted Trey because Trey had a rocket arm and can make the deep throws, right? We had seen obviously that Ayuk want deep ball me, please, right? Like now we've seen all that now connecting. I think like all the questions I had about Purdy going into this season obviously were about his injury, how he was going to be, how he's going to be coming out. And are you going to be able to utilize all these weapons that you have? Open up the field. We saw how many times, Jimmy back there, and it's like the defenses just stacked the box. You knew the run was coming. He couldn't throw deep. Why even have to put, quarterbacks or safeties or anything back there, because Jimmy can't throw back there, It's like, now I feel like my confidence has grown so much in Brock. Obviously, we seen him lose games and like win games and all this, and he's still just cool as could be, right? Like, he's just like, I love the way he is. So kind of just tell me, like, where's your confidence at in this team? Obviously, we just talked about the defense now stepping up. The offense has been playing great. Where's your confidence at in this team? And do you have more confidence in this team than you did in the team last season for this matchup?
Yeah, I think I do. I think looking at it, if you're just looking at the personnel, if you just look at, some of the stats from the season and what either team struggles with and what either team their strengths are, I think the 49ers match up better with the Eagles today than they did in that NFC Championship game. I felt like it was more evenly matched in the NFC Championship game. Like, it literally could have been a toss-up. So I feel a little bit better about it. The one thing that gives me pause about this matchup is the Eagles' resiliency, because that's not something we even saw like last year. This year, it's on a whole nother level. I feel like that's part of the reason they're 10-1. So I think that's their most dangerous strength is that they can win any which way. They could be behind all game, and in the fourth quarter, like, Jalen Hurts is going to do something crazy to win them the game. He has a clutch gene. So that's the one thing that does worry me about this one. Now, all that being said, I do like the matchup, the 49ers passing game against the Eagles secondary. I feel like the Eagles defense is not what it was last year when these two teams played, and I think that's part of the reason why there's more confidence on my end. I think the 49ers offense is just slightly better than it was last year when these two teams played as well. Now, I don't know about the offensive line, but that's the one concern on the 49ers side is offensive line. But it's been clear that despite the offensive line being average or below average, Brock Purdy has done enough so that it doesn't even matter. Like, most of the time you don't even notice, because he's moving around in the pocket, he's keeping his eyes upfield, he's getting the ball out when he needs to. So I feel confident about that as well, especially because the Eagles defensive line, as it stands right now, isn't as strong as a pass rushing unit as it was then either. They're still really good. They got dogs on that line. They still have Hassan Reddick, but they're more built for like run defense as it stands than pass rushing. Actually, the 49ers defensive line is better than the Eagles defensive line in, statistically, a lot of those categories. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think, the 49ers, I feel confident about it. The only concern, right, that can be the equalizer in this game is the rain. And the fact that they're playing in Philly. It's a very hostile environment, right? If you make mistakes, this is going to be more of a hostile environment than it was just in Seattle, right? Like, I don't even think Seattle's as crazy of a 12th man as they used to be back in the day. So now, you're going to get that playoff environment. You're going to try to, rattle the 49ers and all these things. So I'm just, as long as the 49ers stay even keeled, which, like you said about Brock Purdy, he's always even keeled. He's always cool as a cucumber out there. I think they should be able to execute and just don't dig yourself into a hole. Play clean football, and everything should move smoothly from there.
Yeah, the rain is something that, I'm kind of worried about. And, the game last week, like, they won that game, because their kicker kicked like a 60-yard field goal in the freaking rain, Yeah. So, like, if it comes down to that, like, their kicker is used to that shit. Like, he's making that, like, he's playing in the rain for the last 2 weeks now. It's rained there, So it's like, man, like, I hope, and like, I just hope we don't put ourselves in stupid situations, like, something that it has to come down to that, or, like the whole tush push shit. Like, they asked Wilkes about it, and he's like, well, you got to stop them on first and second down, stop them before they get into this tush push situation. And it's just like stuff like I feel like the Eagles have like just going for them, like nobody can stop that freaking tush push. They're like the craziest numbers with that. And also something that worries me is Jalen's Hurts like can run, is our defense going to be able to stop him? They asked Wilkes about having like how he felt about having somebody spy, the quarterback. Which I don't think that we've saw our defense do too much of that in the past that I can remember. But Wilkes said that he thinks it's necessary when you play somebody, like Jalen Hurts or Kyler or, one of Lamar, those guys. So, I mean, it's a good possibility we see somebody, spying Jalen Hurts. I don't know. Is that Fred? Is that, who do you think?
I think it could be either or on just depending on the play. And I think they're good enough that you don't have to necessarily take them out of coverage, because I feel like sometimes when you have a guy do that, you're not having them drop back because they need to be like in the box, like waiting to see what happens. But I feel like Fred and Greenlaw are just so quick to the ball that you don't necessarily need to do that as long as, they're paying attention to Hurts at all times. And so I also think part of it too is the defensive line keeping contained, right, in the pocket rather than being so aggressive that you're leaving rushing lanes open. And I think the 49ers have improved in that in, the past year or so, more so than in the past. So I think they're built for it. I think they have the linebackers to do it. I think this could be a big Jair Brown game, right? If Jalen Hurts gets past the linebackers, we're gonna be looking at, Jair Brown. So I think it's gonna take a number of guys depending on the level of the field, but I'd put all my trust in these linebackers.
Yeah, I definitely like Fred makes my confidence in this defense like or way probably beyond that it should, just because he's so damn good, like, man. So speaking of, real quick, to kind of go off this Philly game, a player became available today that Philly might end up picking up. Of course, 49ers fans want every player that's available that becomes available. That guy is Zach Ertz. We know that obviously he used to play for Philly. He asked to be released from the Cardinals today, and they granted his wish so that he could go play for a contender. What are your thoughts? Obviously, what we've seen from him this season hasn't been Zach Ertz. He's old. I don't even know how old he is now, but like this is probably like the last edge of his career. That's probably why he's trying to go find a contender. Would you be interested in him bringing him to the 49ers, or would you just rather see him go to the Ravens? Or
I mean, I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on him just because like who besides like Kittle is a threat as a pass catcher, right? As far as the tight ends go. I think he's a solid blocker as well. But there's a lot of blocking assignments in this scheme for the tight ends, and so there would be like a ramp up time that he would need in this offense. So just it being this late in the season, I don't know if that makes it worth it for the 49ers. That being said, I don't know. Like you consider it, right? I wouldn't not consider it. Ultimately, I don't think they would do it. I think they're happy with the group that they have. But yeah, who knows? Who knows if he ends up clearing waivers and going back to the Eagles. Of course, if he does clear the waivers, he probably will go back to the Eagles, which, to your point, he's older now. He's dealt with a lot of injuries these past couple years, so it's not the same guy as before. So if they want to pick him up, fine by me.
Let me ask you about something else that's circulating around. And, I already saw the chat bring it up a couple times. Two things I want to get your thoughts on when it comes to Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
One, it's going around with the dumbass that he says Purdy is not a franchise quarterback because he wears his hat backwards to the podium. So like it just is crazy to me that this guy makes millions of dollars to talk about football. And this is the kind of takes that he puts out there. He compares Purdy to Jalen Hurts and says Jalen Hurts is a franchise quarterback because he wears his hat forward when he came to the presser. And he's manicured and groomed and whatever else he said. And Brock, nothing about his play, nothing about the guy on the field, but he's not a franchise quarterback because he wore his hat backwards when it comes up to the podium. So there's that. The second thing is Brock was asked during his media today by Larry Krueger about he says that he was in talks with some Eagles media reporters, whatever, and they all are in agreement that Brock Purdy is the weak link on this team.
Wow.
So he asked him right to his face at the podium how he felt about that. And Brock was like, well, I didn't know about that till right now. But, Brock stayed cool like he does, but you could kind of see it in his face that he was like, and which I thought was really weird, like, because Larry's been the number one Brock supporter, right? Everything Brock. And then you're going to go ask him that when he's at the podium. Like, I was like, okay, well, and I hadn't even heard that. I haven't heard that from one, like, I'm sure people probably are saying that, like that nobody wants to give Brock Purdy any credit. It's always everybody else but him. But like all this criticism on Brock for like the stupidest things, a hat, like he has too many weapons, so he's not a good quarterback. It's like, I just don't understand like where this shit comes from.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. On the Colin Coward thing, like, dude just does that to get engagement. I mean, he's in the business of engagement. He's not really in the business of analysis. He's literally like he does that podcast by himself, right? Like he just talks by himself. So you kind of just have to like say things sometimes to create a conversation or, just to say anything. And the easiest way to get engagement is to piss off 49er fans because they feed into it every single time. Like I can't tell you how many people I saw like retweeting that and saying something in response, right? Like just how stupid it was. And it's stupid, yes, but like I think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
I don't think he actually believes that. I think it's just to garner interest and clicks, and he's getting them. So the best piece of advice I would give people who don't like Colin Coward's content or opinions is simply block him and like just don't watch any of his videos. Like it's almost like people want to be pissed off, so they watch what he says, like just to see what dumb thing he says next. But come on, he cannot be serious. And if he is, like, just more reason to not like listen to him, right? So that's my take on Colin Coward. It really doesn't bother me just because I think we all know how ridiculous it is. Not one person out there agrees with him. And then just on the fact of Larry Krueger's question in asking Purdy what he thought about Eagles fans or whoever thinking he was a weak link. That's crazy. That's crazy to bring up. Especially because like he's a huge Purdy fan, supposedly. But yeah, I mean, maybe he's trying to, put something in his ear and piss him off before the game, right? Because Brock Purdy feels like the kind of guy who does kind of take notice of those things and plays with a chip on his shoulder when he feels like he does have to prove something. Like I think even Kyle Juszczyk said, yeah, we like when he plays angry because we think it has him play a little bit better. So who knows, maybe hearing that he's gonna be like, all right, bet, because we know Brock Purdy's really quiet and humble off the field. But once he gets on that field, he's thinking, I'm the
Mhm.
freaking man. Like, I'm about to go here and make you guys look silly. So I think he's gonna bring that energy on Sunday, hopefully.
Yeah, with Colin, like I thought the Trey Lance hate was, obviously because the connection with Trey Lance and his daughter, but then, I'm seeing the hate come out with Brock Purdy, and I'm like, man, did Brock Purdy take your daughter out too? Like, I don't
I think he
like
just hates maybe he just dislikes the
hates the
49ers.
49ers.
Yeah, which is crazy, but whatever. I mean, again, like just storied franchise with a hell of a lot of fans, and we give him engagement. So
Yeah.
until the day that we stop, I think he'll just keep poking. He'll keep poking the bear a bit every now and again.
I want to get your thoughts on the fan bases, like where your thoughts are when it comes to, we know like the older 49ers fans hate the Cowboys and hate Cowboys fans and anything to do with that team because, the history between them. Some of the younger fans, it's more they hate Seattle and hate the Seattle fans. Do you think the Eagles have they come up to that point? Like, is this the 49ers Eagles rivalry a thing going forward? Like, is that up there in the top of your list now? Where do you stand when it comes to that?
Um, it definitely could be, right? Like I think they haven't really played enough meaningful games yet together in recent history to really warrant it being called a rivalry. Now, if they play this game and, things get heated or chippy or there's more, yapping after the game, if they play again in the playoffs, yeah, that you get more of that, and suddenly it gets to this back and forth thing, right? But at one point, like, I mean, if the 49ers win this game, it it's on its way to becoming a rivalry, right? Because what do we say about the 49ers and the Rams? That's not a rivalry. It's
Yeah.
if it's one-sided. So, the 49ers have to win one in a convincing enough way that it's like, yeah, okay. Like next time we see you. So yeah, and the way it's looking, I think both teams will play in the playoffs again. So I think it's on its way, but it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny because, like I said, my family's from Philly. They're Eagles fans, right? So I've watched Eagles football since I was a little girl, since before I even watched 49ers football. And, like I never thought two shits about them because they pretty much always sucked when we were good, or when they were good, like we weren't that great. So like it never came to us playing these big meaningful games like the NFC Championship or, stuff like that. And then just the last couple years, like I don't know if it's just like being on Twitter or since I started, doing content or what, but the Eagles fans have been far worse to me than any other fan base out there. Like they're
Yeah.
disrespectful. They come in the chat spewing hate. Like they leave comments of hate. They're on social media on every single post that you could think of. They're on there saying stupid shit. It's just like they're rude as hell when you go to the game. Like they're throwing shit at
Yeah.
you and cussing at your mom. The little kids are walking up, flipping you off. Like it's
Yeah.
a whole different breed out there, right? Like they're cussing at the freaking players' wives. And like even for Fred Dad to tell his wife, like, don't wear anything red, don't wear anything 49ers so that they don't know that you're, with the team. Like that's crazy. And like, so I feel like they're definitely rising up that board for me. And it probably isn't even just a rivalry thing more than just their fans are an asshole thing. So I can't stand them.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what it is. It's not a right. I think they're just assholes to like every fan that isn't an Eagles fan. They like to make fun of other teams and, talk trash. I think that's just the nature of Philadelphia sports.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's crazy. I would not go to a game there.
I know.
Probably for that reason, but yeah, it is what it is.
That's a
I
game too I always wanted to go to because it has meaning, with my family being Eagles fans, but it's like now, like,
Yeah,
I don't wanna take my wife there, like, like, where I'm
wear
gonna have
all
to be like a
black.
freaking bodyguard the entire game, like, dressing like a Raiders fan and shit, like, don't fuck with me. Just
Yeah,
like an OG.
just wear all black, and we already know you're 6 feet, Miriah, so, I mean, you'd probably be fine.
But and I don't like I can't just like bite my tongue, like so one thing saying disrespectful stuff, but like if somebody throws something at my wife, like I'm not just gonna be able to stand there, like so
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
trying to go to a game and wind up in fucking jail and all this freaking nonsense just because the Eagles fans are assholes.
Yeah, it could get
Um
ugly, for sure.
predictions. What how you feeling? Let's see what that confidence level's
Oh,
like,
let's
Steph.
see. I had written my, like, score prediction because I forget, like, if I didn't write it down, I'd probably give you a completely different number right now. Where did I write it down? Okay, I think it was on this other notepad. 34-27.
Okay.
That's what I said. So I think it's going to be high scoring. I think the 49ers have a great defense. This is the best defense that the Eagles have faced all season. I think they are going to hold them to, a considerable amount. Lower 27 is me saying like the Eagles are going to make an effort to come back, and 27 is what they end up with. But I think much of the game it's going to be tough for them to score points. They might be able to do it on some crazy big play, kind of like we saw in the NFC Championship game, and then Jalen Hurts can run from there, kind of
Mhm.
thing. But I think aside from that, they're going to be able to contain them. I think more than we've seen other teams do.
Yeah, I'm going 34-20.
Okay, I like
Um
that. I like that.
and I think it's more so obviously the 49ers can't go in there and do stupid shit. The penalties have to be minimal, right? Like this last game against Seattle, I think we only had 3 penalties. 3 or
Mhm.
5. I think it was 3. And that's so much down from the last weeks, like where we're having like freaking I felt like 23 penalties we're leaving the game with, like something absurd. Like we're killing ourselves. Like we can't go in there and do this with that team. Obviously we know about the trenches in this game is going to be so important. They're stout. We know obviously they lost pieces on their defensive line. What's his face is out. Fletcher Cox
Yeah, it
most
seems
likely
like
out. Yeah.
he seems like
Um,
he might be out.
but still they have guys, right? They're still stout defensive line. We know about their offensive line is probably the best in the NFL.
Yeah.
So like our defensive line is going to have their work cut out for them. But at the end of the day, I think especially I have a lot more confidence in this defensive line now with Chase. Like this line has looked so much different. Eric Armstead didn't practice this week. However, he said today that he is playing. So, I feel a lot better about that because I was kind of
Yeah.
worried, going into this game. We saw what happened last year with Kinlaw having to start. And I'm like, I don't want to see Kinlaw starting again, lined up against this Eagles team. They were just like picking Kinlaw up and throwing him across the field. So with Armstead playing, like I feel a lot more confident in that. And like we talked about, the back end of this defense is playing such great football and it helps that the defensive line's holding up their part of the deal, right?
Yeah.
And I think the 49ers are going to continue to hit over that 30-point mark. When they're rolling on all cylinders, I don't think this Eagles defense or any defense for that matter is going to be able to stop them. So as
Yep, I
long
like
as we
that.
can stay healthy, don't beat ourselves. We know what happened last time too with them ruling that play a catch, and it really wasn't
Yeah.
a catch. We know they're not going to be showing the replays. Like we need Kyle to be on top of his game too. Like challenge shit that needs to be challenged. Like pay attention. Get your head out of the fucking call book for 5 seconds and pay attention to what's going on the damn field.
Yeah, be aggressive. I mean,
Yeah.
I think this season he's been a little more aggressive than he has been, last year, for example. I think part of that has to do with him trusting Brock Purdy in certain situations. But yeah, I mean, this is not one of those games where you shrivel up into a ball and hope for the best. I think you kind of have to create your destiny and trust your team and your personnel and your play calling to
Yeah.
um to advance in this game and keep moving the chains.
Yeah, I see Rick says he's going to the game. I just want to say, everybody that is going to the game, of course, I wouldn't not wear my colors, like we joke and say wear all black, but I definitely wouldn't roll in there wearing all black. Like I'm rolling in there wearing all red, 49ers head to toe. So I would expect you guys to do the same. But just be safe, be smart,
safe.
don't let this game and their asshole fans, have you paying consequences later in life. Like you don't need to wind up in jail and all that shit. It's not worth it. Steph, what do you have going on for the rest of the week?
Yeah, so every Friday I do my preview show with Lori Fitzpatrick. That is 5:30 Pacific time. We pretty much deep dive into the favorable and cautious matchups in like every week for every game. So look out for this one because I think there'll be a good amount of favorable matchups. Like I think we might surprise ourselves a bit.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts before we get out of here? I appreciate you as always. I look forward to having this show with you. Chat, much love. Appreciate everybody that comes through. Just a reminder to like and subscribe both channels. We do stream on both channels. So if you're not subscribed to either 49 Faithfully or to 49K, make sure that you subscribe to both. Steph?
Yeah, I wanted to give a quick shout out to 49ers. Is it Chanel or like Chino?
Yeah, Chanel.
Because they literally commented from your channel first and then immediately my channel after. I was like, that's awesome. Like
Yep.
they didn't have to go like to both channels, but I definitely appreciate that. Yeah, if you're on my channel, check out Miriah's channel and vice versa. We definitely appreciate it. Appreciate you, Miriah. Appreciate all the fans, of course. And again, if you're gonna be out there, be safe. Be safe on the internet as well. Don't get into these back and forths with Eagles fans. It's just not worth it. Tell them to touch grass, man. That's what they need to do.
Touch grass, man. Sound like Jason when you said that. Tell him to touch grass, man.
Oh no, it's Jay rubbing off on me.
All right. Yeah, and this is my last show of the week. I will be back Tuesday with the guys at 6 Pacific time. And then me and Steph will be back next Thursday at 3 Pacific time every week. Until then, everybody stay safe. Everybody have a great game day. Hopefully next time we see you, we are one win higher. See ya, faithful.
Let's go.